Good evening, everyone. Okay, can I have attention? Good evening, everyone. Yeah, you're welcome to the 88th edition. Thank you, anyone at the registration stand. Thank you so much for coming. I want to welcome you all again to this edition of the Power Dialogue. My name is Blessing Akolabi, and I am the Energy Communications Analyst for the Electricity Hub, Nextel Power. Without taking time, just want to briefly tell us what we'll be discussing today. So the topic for this edition is the future of e-mobility in Nigeria. And I believe this topic is a very important one because we're looking at transitioning to cleaner energy. And this is what it's part of what the Nigeria Energy Transition Plan states. So we're going to be looking at what it is, how we're going to to um, transition to clean energy in the transport sector. So we'll be dealing with that topic this evening, and what we'll be looking at is to discuss the viability of electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles in Nigeria. We'll elucidate the challenges, we'll highlight the opportunities, and then we'll discuss the required mechanism to adopt this technology. So I would want to invite the moderator for this session so that we can start immediately. He is the He's a business economist and he has worked in Nigeria for local economic development. That's in 2014 for certain program. And since August 2023, he started working with the Nigeria Energy Support Program, which is European Union German government funded with the GIs in Nigeria. He has 15 years of experience in German cooperation for German ministry, and he's a German from the homeland of Volkswagen Group. He's the head of program for SME development in East Africa, based in Tanzania. Eckhard is the head of development cooperation in Bangladesh and coordination for climate change and renewable energy projects at the German embassy. Before his 10 years of experience in German business, consulting, and banking sector. He has a very robust CV, so I'll leave it there right now. So please, with a round of applause, I want you to welcome Eckhard Hain. He's the head of Sustainable Energy Access Unit in the Nigeria Energy Support Program, GIZ Nigeria. Please, with a round of applause, let's bring him on the stage this evening. He's going to be moderating the session for us. Thank you so much for, coming here this evening. Really appreciate your presence. Thank you so much, everyone. Please sit back and enjoy this informative session. I believe you will be thrilled this evening. Thank you so much. I'll be handing the mic over to the moderator.
Yeah, good evening to all of you. Thank you to NextShare Power for this 88th edition already. Almost over 7 years. We have just shared this information. You know this format here in Abuja, and a broad agenda has been tackled so far. But today, interestingly, the topic what we have to deal with is a basic need, transport. Everyone here in the room had to reach this place, obviously, right? And I assume most of you were using your car. I'm not asking now who has already used the electric vehicle, but nevertheless, this is the future. And very soon, more and more, even maybe out of this group, people will change and maybe replace the current vehicle with electric vehicles. So it's very timely to talk about these basic needs. And with me on the panel, please, first we welcome our gentleman here in the first row. That is Pekpa Obutan. Please, maybe join me here. So Pekpa is the Chief Operating Officer of Possible Electric Mobility. It's a kind of startup. He has a strong background in general in the tech industry. Before, I think it's a very common experience. You served in many countries across Africa and Middle East for Oracle, gathered a lot of experience, and from there you took it up to venture in electric mobility, majorly focused now on e-taxis, e-vehicles assembling, and of course mass transport solutions with electric engines. In the background, you are also one of the most influential people of African descent. There was a kind of survey done in 2020, and you were selected among 100 influential Africans. I find it very remarkable, as transition in the electricity and power sector needs influential people for sure, right? And in addition, you are also alumnus in the United States government professional exchange program. Also, I think with good knowledge about the American society and developments in the tech sector in the US. Please, round of applause for our panelist, Pekpa. Then virtually, due to other obligations and travel trips, we can welcome now Uchenna Idoko. Is she in the Teams channel? Maybe we put her on the screen. As I can already introduce Uchenna, she is a gender economist and older women's empowerment specialist with over 20 years experience in development cooperation. She has worked a lot about social analysis in rural clean energy and rural development. And recently, she was engaged with World Bank programs about e-mobility solutions and project finance here in Nigeria. Apart from that, she has served in various capacities as a trainer, researcher, and most recently, she published even a book about land for her, Nigeria women, land rights and livelihoods. Uchenna, are you audible? From at least you can already also give a round of applause for Uchenna, as the technical team is still checking with the connection. Please. So, and last but not least, we have Michael. Michael, hopefully also virtually in the room. Michael Oluwagbemi, he was member of the governing board in the Rural Electrification Agency, REA. He's a graduate in electrical and electronics engineering from the University of Texas. He holds also an MBA in international management, and he has vast experience in project management, international consultancies in both areas, public and private sector. Most recently, he is the program director of the Presidential Initiative for CNG. You are most welcome, and at least here we see Michael on the screen. Also a big applause for Michael.
Thank you.
So only for the house rules, please silent your phones so that the discussion is seamless here to be conducted. And for logistics, I think the organizers have already guided you around the corner. You find some facilities, and also drinks are provided there. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said, the world is transitioning in the energy sector per se, but if it comes now to the transport sector, Nigeria has also made a roadmap in the Energy Transition Plan 2060. You can find that the emissions of 24% right now in Nigeria are caused by the transport sector, and this shall be reduced with certain steps. Outlined there is mode shifting from individual to mass transport systems, alternative fuels, hybrid CNG, others, and of course installing a charging infrastructure until 2030 so that Nigeria is enabling electric vehicles. In general, as everyone knows, and this is of course also one of the reasons for the discussion today, with the removal of the fuel subsidy, citizens are desperately searching for alternative solutions, how they can reduce the cost for transport. What is the worldwide task behind it? And as we talk about vehicles in particular, how to move this situation, I checked with the International Organization of Motor Vehicles, where you can find right now over, let's say, 1.3 billion vehicles are existing on the planet, 1.3 billion. Out of them, you can find roughly 5 million vehicles right now in Nigeria. Every year, most recent data, new sales last year, 2022, of vehicles, 80 million worldwide, 80 million. Out of them, 50 million around only passenger vehicles. So now the question automatically comes in, from 80 million, how many maybe already, you know, fueled or with an engine electric vehicle? Only 10 million. So you see what the world is having as a task if you talk about transition from the conventional combustion engine towards electric vehicle. And in addition, what we also have to acknowledge, 60% out of these 10 million vehicles sold last year for electric vehicles were only sold in China. So China is, of course, the most advanced nation if it comes to the acceptance of electric vehicles. All the rest, including also my homeland, so to speak, Germany and the Volkswagen, what is around the factories around my home village, we are still waiting for solutions, incentives, guidelines, so that this change will take place. And about this, we will now talk more, how it relates here to Nigeria with our panelists. And I would call first, as it is easier also here for the logistics, my fellow to the left. Maybe you can just give us a quick overview for you as a, let's say, technical oriented person towards for our audience here. What do you see in technical terms, electric vehicle, CNG, to differentiate? We also talked about the LPG and other sources or alternative fuels. What is for you the most viable solution right now here for Nigeria?
All right, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. So to go straight into that, I'd say we're in exciting times. Yeah, these are really exciting times. We've seen in the past, say 3 months or so, the cost of fuel more than triple, right? Leading to or cascading to a whole load of things across the economy. You have inflation everywhere. At this point, inflation is one of the highest, recorded. I mean, we all no need to explain very much. Everybody feels it. Yeah. When you go fill your tank or even take a public transport, or even if you're ordering a ride share from an app, you will feel this thing. Cost of transportation has significantly gone up, yeah, across board. So it's begs to ask, what are the options? What are the options out there for us? How do we address these things? And I mean, it's really interesting that we started about a year now, possible electric mobility. It's like we saw into the future and we knew that, hey, the government has been talking on subsidy removals and all. When this thing happens, it's going to hit hard. Many times people don't look at the impact, or they don't really think of it. Yeah, they just go with the flow and adjust. So what we've been able to do is say, look, when this thing happens, what is going to happen when the subsidy is removed from fuel? How is it going to affect us? So we started making plans on how we can set up an electric vehicle company, not just to import into Nigeria, but also to assemble in country and to service the region. Yeah, because when you're even talking about vehicles, statistics shows that there are about 15 million vehicles in West Africa, and Nigeria has about 75% of that, of the whole West Africa. You know, we have 75%. So it's a large market. Nigeria is a large market, but even beyond Nigeria, you have other countries also. And mind you, we've enjoyed the subsidy for so long that we did not understand the impact. If you travel regionally, you would see that fuel, even right now at the rate it is, Nigeria is still enjoying one of the lowest rates of pump price petrol in the region. If you go to other countries, it's actually more expensive. I don't know if you have any witness in the house, you know, just one of our neighbors here, I won't mention the name of the country. If you order an Uber in that country, you will see this very tiny car come pick you up that you can hardly put in your luggage. To order the executive, that's what they use the Corolla for. So you want to say, oh, let me flex and do the executive. You see your Uber Corolla, yeah? You see that, you're like, oh, this is executive? They've been feeling the pinch, you know, for a long time. We're only just recognizing that or just getting to that level now. So what are the alternatives? You have electric vehicles, you have hybrid vehicles, you have hybrid plug-in hybrid vehicles, you have your CNG, compressed natural gas vehicles, you have your LNG, your liquefied natural gas. Those are options. But the key thing is, how do people even access these options? One, it's how do they know about it, and how do they access these things? What are the barriers to entries for these? So I feel these are some of the things that we'll be discussing today. These are some of the things we'll be addressing. We already have an electric vehicle experience center in Abuja here, Wuse 2. I don't know, has anyone been there? Oh, okay, I see like a few hands. Okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah, but for those of you that have not been there, please, this is an invitation to come over to see it, because there are misconceptions about alternate powered vehicles. There's a lot of misconception about it that people have. Yeah.
Yes.
So our job is to educate the masses, educate people about it, and say, these are the options. You have electric vehicles powered by electric. You have your plug-in hybrid that you can plug in to charge, but also use your fuel for, so you can alternate the power use. You have your CNG that uses the compressed natural gas. Those are options, but you need to understand them. You need to know about them before you can now adopt and use. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That was already a good link also to the panelist Michael. We have seen you on screen briefly. Are you on? Can you hear us? Because then I would
Yes, I can hear you.
the question now to you, Michael. You are the program director for the presidential initiative, especially now promoting the CNG. Out of your experience and also the tasks what this initiative has defined for the team, how is the viability for the CNG now in Nigeria, and how would you sell the idea now to the audience? Please, Michael.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thanks for joining me and allowing me to join your session. First of all, I have to say that the presidential CNG initiative was designed by the president to allow enable Nigerians to explore alternative fuel for mass transportation to deliver cheaper transportation for the masses. That broad mandate is actually technically beyond CNG, and that has also allowed us to explore the use of electricity as one of the pilot programs under our program. So the reason why I'm actually currently in London to have a meeting with the United Nations Sustainable Energy for All initiative is around the e-bus concept, because we are also ordering about 100 electric vehicles, equal, not even more than the number of electric vehicles between Kenya, South Africa, electric buses between Kenya, South Africa, and Uganda, who between them boast a combined 70 buses deployed. Nigeria at one fell swoop, we're ordering 100 under this program. So there's pretty good excitement in the room, not just for CNG, but also the possibilities with electric vehicles, as electric buses for mass transit, in order to deliver cheaper transportation for Nigerians. In terms of viability, absolutely. Nigeria is a gas country, and our gas can also be used to produce electricity. We should not be a country that is primarily dependent on fossil fuel, especially PMS and AGO, whose price is set by affairs and things that are happening outside of Nigeria. The price of crude oil is the dominant factor in the price of PMS and AGO. Normally accounts for between 70 and 80%, depending on who you are asking. If that is the case, it then means that price of crude oil, which is set primarily by geopolitical issues, supply and demand, will mean that Nigerians, or the life of the average Nigerians, is impacted by these issues when they do occur. If there's a war in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia, if there's crisis in Israel between Hamas and the Israeli authorities, if there's some kind of disruption in the Gulf of Mexico, either with hurricane or any kind of war going on in the Gulf, in the Arab Gulf, Nigerians then pay more at the pump, even though that is not because or any fault of theirs. So we are saying that we need to free Nigerians from these impetuous price increases and price shocks. Our economy should not be subject to these price shocks, and that's the reason why we're saying we have to look for an alternative form of fueling our mass transportation systems. And we can do so by using our own gas. Nigeria is the 8th largest gas reserves in the world, at almost 193 TCF that can last us for 97 years, the largest gas reserves in Africa. And we are the 2nd largest gas flare in the world after Russia. So instead of wasting our gas, instead of flaring our gas, we're saying let us use that gas, natural gas that God has blessed us with, that is found in about 31 states of Nigeria, 37 states and territory, that is abundant everywhere across Nigeria, that we just need to utilize for our domestic industrialization and growth. Let's use that gas to power vehicles. It's cleaner, it is cheaper, and it's more reliable and it's safer. That is the theory of change behind CNG. If we're able to take 1 million vehicles, as the president has set it goal for us in the next 4 years, that 1 million vehicles will be using anything from 150 to 200 mmscf of gas a day. If we're able to quadruple that to 4 million, just the way Iran has done in the last 10 to 15 years, we can be able to move our gas utilization level in the mass transit sector to almost 600 TCF mmscf a day, which will be almost equivalent to what we are using in power today. It will also mean that we can drastically reduce the amount of emissions we are putting into the air, because natural gas gives 95% less emission than diesel or petrol. And we also means that we are going to be accessing energy that is 40 to 50% cheaper per equivalent kilometer when we utilize this for transportation. It also means that we're going to be using a safer form of transportation, because natural gas, as you know, has a higher flash point than PMS. And of course, once it has contact with air, immediately dissipates and cannot explode, unlike PMS vehicles when they enter accidents. And it's stored intrinsically in that. So all of these issues are the reason why we are going for the CNG option, and also the electric vehicle option. As you know, that CNG also drives significant IPP production across the country.
Okay, Michael, I think for now we have a clear direction already on the CNG technology, and of course the source here in Nigeria, what is given by nature, so to speak, is obviously in the room. Let's bring on board now the perception of Uchenna. Is she on? Because we have not seen her
Yes,
yet.
I hope you can hear me.
Yes, but maybe we could also use the screen. But Jenna, maybe already, as you can hear us, from your perception, as you have experience working with World Bank projects and in this experience with rural development, and our colleagues talked about already accessibility for the new technologies applied now in vehicles. With your special focus now on households and the gender component, how do you judge currently the potential of electric vehicle and alternative fuels for the transport in the rural area? Uchenna,
Yeah, good evening,
please.
everyone. My name is Uchenna, as I've rightly been introduced. I just want to thank Nestia for this invitation and this opportunity to speak. From my perspective, I think for electric mobility and alternative transport already being discussed in the country, from my experience, is already from onset getting extremely exclusive. A lot of the concentration, it's in the urban centers. We already this evening, you're already hearing about the mass transportation, about the experience center in Abuja. In Lagos, you already have Oanda partner with Lagos government, and have already imported the mass transit. So with a lot of research we've done with the World Bank project, you find that there's a lot of interest. There's a lot of interest from the rural group. I mean, they see the alternative mobility, that's the e-mobility, as a saving grace, as a saving alternative to move in, especially when it comes to issue of health, when it comes to issue of livelihood, transporting trade, where you see that it's already very expensive for them to move with the kind of vehicles we already have. And then with all this interest, you don't have, there's already scarce infrastructure even in the urban. Talk more of the rural setting. For some of the policy documents that states have churned out, that the national, that has been churned out at the center, you don't see a proper plan for the rural setting, as if households don't exist in these rural settings. Even for the states that are very responsive to these e-mobility desires, you don't see plans for the rural setting. Another worry when it comes to viability, issue of viability, apart from infrastructure, like the charging units and the rest for the rural setting, is also the issue of affordability. What kind of units are we talking about? Are we buying? Are we procuring? Can the rural infrastructure, can the rural infrastructure we already have handle it? Can people procure it in the rural setting? And that's why you see for the proponents of rural e-mobility, they're talking about two-wheelers, three-wheelers that are affordable for the first uptake for rural dwellers, unlike the cities where you talk about the mass transportation and the e-vehicles and the alternative hybrid vehicles. And very importantly, apart from the rural setting, is the issue of even making it adaptable for the vulnerable groups like persons with disability. It's very blank in a lot of the policy documents that we're already seeing in Nigeria when it comes to e-mobility. I guess I can stop there. So there's interest, but there's issues around infrastructure and lack of inclusiveness, and then also issue of affordability. Thank you.
Yes, and Uchenna, as you worked already also in empowerment in certain other fields, what would you recommend as kind of sensitization, training efforts, knowledge dissemination, sensitization, also for clean cooking? We had recently an event here on clean cooking, and this is also kind of still mass sensitization needed. Maybe you just add something for this category of intervention, what is needed.
I think for me, it's on both sides, from the policy angle and the community, okay, the practice angle. So there's need for a lot of sensitization for even, especially households, especially women and children that use more of this energy. So talk about transiting to cleaner facilities. So it's important we think towards sensitizing them, educating, changing, because practice takes a lot of time to change. If I've been using firewood over time, it might be difficult for you to teach me to, move to solar or move to electric
riders,
equipment.
electric riders.
Yeah.
That is, for instance,
So
the most
it's very
obvious,
important
yes,
for us to do that in the community. But also, it's also very important because that the policy space, the policy makers at the state level, at the ministry level, begin to think towards what is in the policy. And it will lead me to say, what is in the budget that is targeting this change for the rural dwellers? What is in the budget? Because sometimes we make a very vague policy statement that, we're going to do this X, Y, Z, but there is no budget to back it up. So MTEF comes, budget year comes, you don't even hear exactly
so
what
tangible policy with tangible funds. And that brings me to Pekpa, for the question, funding, incentives. You have now set up a new company, private sector. What would be your wish or kind of advocacy work? What has to be done so that private sector ventures more into the sector and can deliver the service? We were already touching the question of accessibility. So without the private sector, obviously it will not work. Maybe that you could give us an insight about this, please.
All right, thank you. So I would say it's two-way things. There needs to be partnership between both the public and the private, yeah. When it comes to new industries, you look at any economy, the government is the largest spender, right, in any economy. So it's the government's part to at least catalyze the industry and create a conducive environment that the public sector can now step into and play in, right? Because their job really is, once you create an enabling environment, then the private sector, whose goal is to create profit from from any enterprise, can step in and create that profit and make it actually work. Yeah. So it's you need to look at a partnership model, yeah, between both sectors. Then also just touching on some of the things that Uchenna had mentioned in terms of, there's a lot of talk about clean energy in the urban space, but the rural is being left out. I wouldn't really say that. Yeah, I mean, to the most part, yes, but the truth is there's a lot of effort that is being made towards addressing these kind of shortages in rural areas. I mean, if you look at it, she had mentioned some things that are barriers in the rural space. You have affordability, which of course, yeah, you have infrastructure, then you also have knowledge. Yeah, you have knowledge, then I would add one more, after sales servicing technical skills and all. So these are some of the things that we, as a possible electric vehicle company, we're looking at addressing this. So we're not just looking at assembling cars alone. We're also looking at two-wheelers. We're looking at three-wheelers, because the truth is the bulk of Nigerians actually live in suburban areas. That's the truth.
And
Yeah.
what about the access to finance banks?
Yes.
What would
So
you
for
say
access to finance, we're also partnering with financial institutions to provide a form of funding, form of lease to own structure, different models really. But one thing is, if you look at our economy, one key thing is identity management as a country. Once we can get our identity management right, then it opens up the economy to a whole lot of things. For example, in this part of the world, it's very difficult to buy things on credit. And if you're buying on credit, it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous cost, the interest. I was talking to a friend the other day in the States. I mean, he owns a Rolls Royce. And by the time I found out how much he paid for the Rolls Royce, the down payment, like it's even cheaper than the amount I bought my car here. Because here you have to do it cash down. 100%, if you say you want to do, okay, you want to get someone to finance you, you'll be seeing like a 40% on it, and you'll be like, come on, why am I paying 40% to spread over just 24 months? Part of the problem is we don't have proper identity management systems where you can track someone properly. I mean, yes, we've advanced in the last 10 years. We've come a long way with your bank verification number, with your name, national identity number, and some other things. But still, it's the systems that should go on those infrastructures have not been built fully.
But nevertheless, overall, private sector is tapping slowly the potential of
yes.
these new developments. As you set up a new company, I think also others, even in loading infrastructure, I've seen something in Lagos is also coming up with financial banks. I think is in the background they're engaged. So with this, as we are of course looking very much in the mass transportation. Maybe you just focus also again on this question, as this is the burning issue for mega cities worldwide. How do you see now this technology and the acceptance of operators to run either e-bus or CNG bus?
Well, I'll say that the adoption is picking up. Yeah, people just need to be aware of it and educated about it. It all comes to knowledge. For example, most people, they have the conception that, the fear is range anxiety. It's a global fear. It's not just in Nigeria. That you get an EV, what if it stops in the middle of the road? How are you going to get it to start? Some people say you need to get a generator in your boots to power your cars. I mean, we've heard all sorts, really, but it's just knowledge about it. It's just like your regular fuel, your internal combustion engines, your ICE vehicles. If you want to go from, let's say, from Abuja to Gwagwalada, for example, from the city to Gwagwalada, you need to know that there's fuel in your car, right? And you know how much fuel will take you there. It just makes sense. It's the same way with electric vehicles or your alternate fuel. You just look at your meter, you say, okay, this fuel can take me there. I need to top up at this point, or I need to. So that's, once you can solve that fear, that's one. I think people will be more inclined to it. Then also the fact that, I think this is one major fact that people don't know. Owning an EV will save you money in the long run. People are like, oh, how so? So for example, right now, to fill the tank of a regular car is 45,000 naira. If you use an SUV, maybe 50,000 naira. To fill your electric vehicle fully charged, that will give you the same range is actually about 10% the cost. So essentially,
around the economics.
Yeah, so essentially you're paying for 5,000 naira worth of electricity that will give you the same range as your car. And most times, most people, if you buy a full tank, you do it maybe once a week, depending on your car. So imagine you buy a full tank for 40K, 45K for a week, or you charge your electricity for 5,000 naira for the whole week. That's
In-
90% of the cost.
In that
Yeah.
regard, maybe just one comment on the loading infrastructure. How do you see this process then?
Yeah. So for the infrastructure, which is also one of the barriers to getting into the EV or alternate energy space, right now, to be honest, we don't have a lot of infrastructure. Yeah. But people need to look beyond that. It's just like the mobile phones. When the mobile phones came in 2001, you know, folks were like, oh, how is this going to move? They don't have anything. They don't have infrastructure. They don't have this. And that is the exact same place we are with EV, electric vehicles and alternate fuel that we were with telcos in 2001. It's the same
Yes.
exact place.
And at the
So,
end, especially the mobile phone sector was mentioned worldwide as leapfrogging
yeah,
technology for Africa in many sense,
Yeah.
right? Let's bring on board again Michael as we talk about the loading infrastructure and mass transportation, the scheme what the government has envisioned. Maybe you can just go into detail in terms of your strategy and the next steps, as you are now already preparing certain things in London about mass transport and CNG buses. Michael, please. Michael, can you still hear us?
I think I'm on mute. Okay, you can hear me now.
Yes, now,
All right.
yes.
First of all, I want to say that definitely proud of the work that Brilliant and Possible EVs, which the previous speaker co-founded, is doing with respect to EVs, and we are proud to be collaborating with them at the PCNGI with respect to our EV strategy. And I have to also say that the national policy on transportation actually has rural transportation at the center of it. Why do I say so? Because we know that the most important spending of an household in Nigeria is food. And about 85% of Nigeria's foods actually originate from the rural area. And if you're looking at the cost of your food, the transportation component is very significant. And so if we want to deliver cheaper food for the masses, then by all means we must by all means put what is a cheaper form of transportation for the agriculture sector, which invariably means the rural sector or the rural economy, in view of what we are doing. And so the National Transportation Policy, as currently envisaged, actually talks quite a bit in depth about the transportation to support the rural economy, especially agriculture. For us at the PCNGI, we actually have a significant component of our program focused on the three-wheelers, as well as the trucks that will be involved in agricultural production. And how do we convert them to CNG and support them? The three-wheeler program, we are going to bring in about 10,000 of them that will be powered with CNG and mobile refueling units that will be scattered around our rural areas during the pilot period. And also we'll be supporting the auto trucks that are currently on diesel, supporting their retrofit, working with various agricultural logistics companies to help transition them from diesel to CNG, thereby offering up to 60% lower cost of transportation for agricultural produce. So these are something that are important. Now, back to your question. You had asked, what is the program? What is our plan like? And what do we envisage? The PCNGI, to be clear, is, like I've said previously, is an initiative of Mr. President on the back of his implementation of the fuel subsidy removal from his day zero in office. It was very clear to the Nigerian people that in order to support a stronger economy, reduce borrowings, and restore government finance back to bring some sanity to government finance, there was the need for Nigeria to stop spending heavily on fuel subsidy that was not getting to the ordinary Nigerians. So in doing so, however, he also understood that it translated to higher cost of transportation. And so the PCNGI is a down payment, I like to say, by Nigeria on the future of energy transition from fossil fuel, in this instance, PMS and AGO, at the first instance to gas and ultimately to EVs. The program in the short term is funded by the palliative, under the palliative initiative, and the funding is to cover the 6 months up until end of March. Will allow us, first of all, to bring in about 12,500 CNG vehicles or biofuel platforms, including 10,000 tricycles, 1,500 buses, and a few other platforms in between. But the idea is that with these CNG platforms, we can begin to demonstrate to the public the lower cost that is associated with CNG. But even more important is that we are implementing a 55,000 vehicle conversion program, which will allow us to be able to provide conversion of existing PMS vehicles to become biofuels, where they will be using both PMS and CNG. And this will be available to mass transit operators. We are working with the Nigerian Union of Road Transport Workers. We are working with the private sector. We are also working with city mass and metropolitan mass transit systems, so that they can benefit from this program of converting their existing.
So there's a strong component of proof of concept and promotion activities so that people can really see the applications, right?
Absolutely. So
Michael, as I was informed that you have to leave around 7 because you have other important appointments still ongoing. I wanted just to inform the audience, if you have any question to Michael, please think about and prepare so that we can at least accommodate some questions before you leave at 7. Is that okay, Michael, for you, I hope? And
yes,
for the audience, also please, yes, keep in mind that Michael unfortunately has to leave earlier. That brings me back to Jenna. Jenna, as we talk about development partners like World Bank, like GIZ, we are in our program here as well having the component to support activities and productive usage. You mentioned already the wheelers, riders in rural areas for transport means. What would you say the role of development partners right now in terms of transport transition and the combination of programs what you have worked so far? Your advice, your piece of advocacy, or your appeal to the government who are collaborating now with development partners. Jenna, please.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think my first input to that will be the development partners already doing a good job partnering with government. I was part of one. But my worry, as always, has been when it comes to number one, the issue of data and research. I've had a lot of numbers this evening. I've had a lot of numbers. I know some level of needs assessment was done. Was it made public? So I think development partners should partner with the government around data, generating data. Who are we procuring these vehicles for? Where is it most needed? If we tell this particular unit, the presidential unit, to say where in Nigeria, for example, do we need e-vehicles the most, both at the rural and at the urban setting? Which state needs it more? Some level of this data made available. Yet again, I know we have a very big national transport policy, but I'm just speaking specifically for this particular e-mobility initiative that we're discussing. So I think development partners, because my problem is that these things will happen, these things will come in, these vehicles will come in, and in the next 3-4 years, you won't be able to track the impact, you won't be able to track the usage, you won't be able to track the service, the servicing of it, if there's no data. Data before procuring these vehicles, data about who these vehicles are going to, who manages it, some level of tracking of what is going on at the rural and at the urban setting. I have been part of a lot of urban mass transportation launch in Abuja, in Lagos, in the big cities. Until today, we don't have track of where they are, what has happened to them. And you find out that they're all packed somewhere, no value, as if the national fund that was used to procure them, I mean, was just
so proper
from
tracing is needed,
so
right?
I'm advising the partners, international community, to please work with government about data, research, tracking what's going on, and making it public. So that the public...
Ujena, sorry to interrupt. Maybe you can add also the aspect, as we talked about entrepreneurship, the role of the private sector in this uprising of new offers in the mobility sector. What role can gender play? We need also, of course, technicians, mechanics everywhere. Training, technical vocational training is carried out in certain programs, also among the development partner programs in Nigeria. What would your advice on the role of women entrepreneurs in this sector, please?
Yeah, so my second advice will be around skill development and training programs. And because already there's a gender gap in that sector, I think women should be prioritized to close up that gap. Women should be prioritized as mechanics, skill acquisition around. We're already talking about around issue of servicing, issue of when you're reconverting, you work with mechanics. So can we work with women, train them so that they're part of this? I think that's also it's very important that we also give some level of entrepreneurship support to these women. So not just training, but setting up some level of service centers where you come in and see women working, and it will encourage other women entrepreneurs to invest in the sector. So it's a beautiful time, is a very good opportunity to get women entrepreneurs involved. I think also when we're considering issues of infrastructural development for something like the charging points, I think it's very important that we also partner with the private sector and the government to ensure where will these centers be? Are they safe so that they're responsive to the issue of safety for both women and men? Are they accessible? Would they be very far from from households, for example? And it's where women can't go in the night. And it will just be there. Even if I have a small unit, I won't be able to go there until daylight. Even if I need to go and I have a pregnant woman in my maternity ward, I need to deliver and I need to charge, I can't go there because of fear of safety. So all these things should be considered from the gender aspect. And I think there's also need for some level of partnership when it comes to having outreaches in the community. There's a lot of government agencies, NOA, the National Orientation Agency, that can be, partnered with international agencies to begin to talk to the rural community about clean energy, energy transition, because most of these words are even very difficult for elites to understand, not to talk more of the
I think that you touch also a very important point, synergies among government agencies and not duplicate or just replicating other programs, just build on each other. Yeah. So that brings me to now the question lot for Michael. Do we have any questions also in the chat, for instance, or in the room for Michael, because he has to leave? I see here certain hands, so who can assist with the microphone? Michael, please be aware already, high demand. So ladies, was a lady here among the, yes, ladies first, maybe We take first on this right side. So Michael, I hope you can understand properly, please.
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Maybe just your name and institution, and then we'll.
Hi, everyone. My name is Isabella.
Yes.
My name is Isabella Chukwuchatila. I'm actually with a government agency, so let's just run. So from what you're saying, Mr. Michael, it's very interesting, and listening to everyone here, it just seems to be that, synergy that we're looking for. What's the presidential plan now, because we are presenting presidential initiative for partnering with government agencies, not just as an institution of
Okay.
government,
Yes.
as an organization that has people in it who can access some sort of capital to get electric vehicles, who can be pilots for those charging stations,
Yes.
and also provide funding as a group of people. Is there any such plan?
Okay.
So I work with an institution, I would like to know.
Do we have any other representative of the public sector who has also a similar question? Because then we can group it. Please, this gentleman.
Thank you so much. My name is Mr. Peter Isangadiri. I head the SDG office of RMIDC. I want to ask Mr. Michael, one thing we always try to do is planning ahead. My brother just told me that Nigeria have the highest markets. Well, 15 million, we control 75% of that. So a lot of cars will come in Nigerian places. Do we have a research center to research on future challenges?
Okay.
The practice, how do you dispose?
It's clear question. Thank you.
No, we need to know what are the challenges in the future that we face.
Yes.
Should be the research center to look ahead for this thing.
Okay. Great. Then we first give it to Michael, brief answer so that we can accommodate maybe some more. Michael.
Yes,
please.
thank you very much. So with respect to the first question, we have a very robust plan for engagement of not just the public sector, but critical stakeholders. For example, we recognize the need to ensure that the conversion process, because we are number one, first and foremost, our job is along the lines of the acronym IFR, to incentivize, to facilitate, and to regulate. If we are going to do that effectively, especially for the new market we're creating for CNG vehicles, then there must be an interagency relationship on the government side of things. For example, we need to make sure we have a strong regulatory framework, but cooperative regulation for optimization for conversion and converted vehicles. Just necessarily because you have OEM vehicles that are being retrofitted in the workshop and you are now changing the way they work, we need to make sure they are safe and reliable for use and that there are no quackery around that. So on that, we are bringing in the Standards Organization of Nigeria, working very closely with the Nigerian Automotive Development and Design Council. But then on the enforcement side, they have to work both with the Federal Road Safety Commission as well as the NMPDRA, which is the upstream, midstream, downstream regulatory agency, to ensure that only vehicles that have been properly converted in an accredited workshop, worked on by accredited technicians, are refilled at NMPDRA regulated fueling stations. And that if any vehicle is stopped and is found to be a CNG vehicle, FRSC will also now be checking for the safety of the conversion and make sure that it was properly done at an accredited conversion center and not patronizing a quack. So these are things that government agencies are doing among themselves. The Nigerian Institute of Transport Technology, for example, is providing training modules for autogas technicians that will be powering these conversions. We're hoping to train about 25,000 of them for the next 4 years. That will be helping us to deploy the 1 million converted vehicles and hopefully 4 million by 2020.
Yes. And Michael, sorry for interrupting, then a short word about the synergies and coordination efforts with other ministries, agencies, maybe. So for the lady that we have there, a hint, accessibility, exchanging the information about funds was also this aspect.
Yeah, so we have tried as much as possible, at least from our own initiative side of things, to be very open with data sharing. We've organized several stakeholder workshops in the last 60 days that will be in existence, trying to learn, especially from the lessons of other previous government initiatives around autogas. Of course, they've not taken off for good reasons, because especially subsidy regime was in place. In terms of funding and transparency with funding, we are currently fully funded by the National Assembly appropriations, and we are fully answerable to them. But 90% of our funding with respect to procurement is not being executed by us, is executed by the Ministry of Finance, and anybody that wants information around those financing can always go to the Ministry of Finance and get it. We are only inheriting assets, converter kits, buses, and also developing the routes and working with city mass transit systems, state mass transit systems, federal mass transit systems, system operators to ensure the deployment, distribution, incentivization, facilitation, and of course, regulatory framework for autogas conversion and EV buses in Nigeria. That is what we're going to do.
Good. So then we take 2 more questions. If you still have a few minutes, Michael, maybe on this side, the gentleman.
Thank you, Michael. My name is Victor. I am program manager for Satyagraha Institute. So my question is, subsidy has gone since May this year. So, and since we initiated this, the approach has been mostly towards mass transit. So why have we not focused on trying to offer this conversion to vehicle owners, like individual vehicle owners, who maybe will subsidize it? Maybe the government can say we are paying a percentage, and then the individual pays a percentage. But if we don't even want to do that, why not we offer it in a way that it's the payment option is very flexible, whereby somebody is paying within 3 to 5 years. So because the solar companies have done it, where people buy solar and pay little by little.
Okay.
So why don't we do that approach?
Yes.
A lot more people can afford it, because the bus option, we all know, maybe urban centers, semi-urban centers, but it will go, and then it's even taking a lot of time for adoption. So why didn't we go to straight route, whereby I have a vehicle and you say I can save 90%, so give it to me and I'm paying through by little.
I think this question is clear. Maybe one more. Do we have any other lady in the room asking something to also cater for the gender aspect? Yeah, you know, Shaya promotes ladies to enter the transport sector, so very important. But I don't see it right now. Maybe then we take the gentleman to the right. Yes.
Thank you so much. My name is Emmanuel. I got this question. He made mention of bringing in 10,000 regulars into Nigeria. I'm wondering, where's the place for local content development? We are investing, we are there. One of partner with USA to create the technology for clear engine for three-wheelers is not that complex. And the powerful concept is different institutions in Nigeria. So why not just partner with them?
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, Michael. Also one is the incentive for passenger vehicle direct to the citizen to expedite the conversion, and the other one, technology transfer and local economic development by having assembling and production lines here in Nigeria. Please, Michael.
Yes, thank you very much. Good questions. The first question with respect to providing these incentives for private persons to convert the vehicles, yes, it's going to be also on the table. Like I said, only the pilot program is specifically focused initially on mass transit operators, bus operators, NURTW, Raytheon, NATO, and the rest of them. But as part of that program also, we'll be piloting and ultimately scaling up the program to enable us to have 1 million vehicles converted. And we're launching an incentive program that will ensure almost a zero out-of-pocket cost to the public if they want to have their vehicles converted at an affiliated, accredited PCNGI conversion workshop. But let's remember that first and foremost, we do have a problem, because we're a country of almost who you are talking to, at least 11 million. And we only have 7 conversion workshops in Nigeria. So the number one problem headache I have now is to make sure that I have up to the 1,000 conversion workshops that I need across the country, by partnering with the private sector to rekit, to retrain, to have technicians out there that can do auto gas conversion, so that they can be able to convert and keep up with the pace that we need to keep up, which is about almost 250,000 a year once we open this program to the public. In the meantime, we are developing and working on a voucher program that will allow you, once we open that program, Once we figured out the conversion workshops, which we are already doubling one every 2 to 3 weeks now, we opened a new conversion workshop with a partner of ours, which is Portland Gas, just yesterday. That was launched in Lagos at the new garage in Lagos, which brings the total number of conversion workshops in Nigeria in the last 2 weeks from 7 to 14. So it's a good thing. We've doubled our number of workshops in the last 2 weeks, and we're hoping to double it every 2 weeks up until the end of March, and continue to keep up that pace until we have 1,000 workshops in Nigeria. Now, however, once we do have the workshops, and we are beginning to have the workshops, we are developing a voucher program where you can actually go on the website to actually sign up to be converted, and it will direct you to the nearest conversion workshop, and you'll be able to have a token voucher that will allow you to be able to pay towards the cost of workmanship of installation, but also entitle you to a certain percentage of discounts on the equipment, and then allows you to pay the balance of the equipment via a surcharge that will be on the gas that you're buying. Currently, gas sells for about 230 naira per kg. If we put a surcharge of about 50 to 80 naira, you won't feel it. You will still be saving about 50% relative to PMS. And so that's the plan that we have. And you will be able to, if you are a reasonable CNG user, you will be able to pay off the cost of that.
Okay, Michael, I'm having the time in mind. So I think your next appointment is around the corner.
Yeah, I can take the second question real quick.
And for the incentives, what the person has just asked towards foreign direct investors, I think also the government is everywhere traveling and advocating for FDIs, and I believe also for this sector.
Yes.
I would now open the
floor. Can I quickly answer the question around the local production? So of the 11,500 vehicles that we're bringing in country under this pilot program, 100%, all of them are going to be assembled in Nigeria. 100%.
You see.
They are either coming in as semi knockdown or complete knockdowns. The tricycles are coming in. They are pure CNG tricycles. They're coming in at SKDs. The vehicles that we have ordered are all going to be assembled. In fact, completely knocked down by 4 vehicles are what we are getting with respect to CNG. So you can be rest assured that the president is 100% focused on job creation, leveraging the autogas conversion program and the autogas program just generally to create jobs in Nigeria. And there are well over 12 automobile production companies in Nigeria, and we hope to increase those as a result of this program as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael. I think with these words, we wish you well in London. Many success for your future activities still there and for the initiative in general.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I apologize
thank you for joining here the panel. And I would forward the next question out of the chat. There is just again the general hint of the development in the gas price. And you have mentioned it to compare now cost efficiency between now the different solutions. So the question is here, cost of gas is currently going up. 12.5 cylinder now goes for 12,000 naira. So how do you assess this situation in the acceptance for gas?
Okay, so just like Michael had mentioned, there's going to be a voucher program for those that adopt CNG vehicles, to help them subsidize the cost of fueling their vehicles. So, like we said, it's a PPP, public-private partnership. The government is really looking at how they can partner with the public to make life easier for people, especially when it comes to transportation and reducing the cost of transportation, which will have a ripple effect. So I know there's conversations and talks around incentives for people that use alternate fuel vehicles. Incentives for the CNG, just like Michael had mentioned, you're going to have a program where you can have vouchers to help you with that. For the electric, different things are being put in place for that.
I think we can also hint to the webpage of the presidential initiative. You find it online, and there is also at least some of these instruments outlined and described. So then again, open the floor for questions. Maybe this lady to the left. Yes, there. Please tell us the name and institution, and if you know already to whom the question is related to.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Chisom Wanko. I'm the founder of the Sweeney Company. It's a new e-mobility company that's been founded last year. So currently, we're bringing in electric three-wheelers, and the greatest challenge that we have is the pairing cost. So the cost that we actually, when we procured the electric three-wheeler, okay, when we got to customs, it was crazy. So are there any incentives, especially for startups that are trying to get into the space? That's a major challenge for us right now, because the cost for clearing is actually more than the cost of what we bought the tractor for.
Yes. I think we can give this question to Uchenna, entrepreneurship in Nigeria, female entrepreneurs in particular. Do you have any advocacy initiative on improving, let's say, the business environment, especially with regards of clearing costs and stuff like that? Uchenna, have you? I hope the question was clear for you.
Yeah, not very clear. The question wasn't very clear, but what I heard you say is, can you please repeat the question?
Just for the female entrepreneurs in general also, if she has advocacy work running. Uchenna?
Okay, so for the right business environment in Nigeria for women, especially women entrepreneurs, ILO has been leading a very good advocacy work alongside with SMEDAN. In the last 2 years, I and another expert has worked with this group for the past 2 years, trying to galvanize some level of support for women entrepreneurs in Nigeria, working with them, working with SMEDAN, and improving capacity, improving networking, improving access to finance, access to registration, that's formalization, from informal sector to formalization, and access to import and export, so that they've been able to bring in a lot of around 36 MDAs. I won't be able to give a whole insight to all that they're doing, but the rollout of the initiative from SMEDAN will start, I think, next year, February. So they're going to be working with all these 36 signed in MDAs to improve the business environment for women entrepreneurs. Yes.
I just wanted to make this point that grouping entrepreneurs in general and a strong business association landscape can definitely also help to address such issues. In fact, well, maybe now from your own experience as well on the cost of clearance, import processing issues, what would you like to share, please?
Okay, so I'd say I can feel your pain. We've brought in a couple of electric vehicles. You have Teslas, you have Mercedes EQEs, you have, the top of the range, as well as two-wheelers and three-wheelers. And the funny thing is, for us, these were some of the first that was even coming into Nigeria. So it's like one of one. They didn't have it on their system. The fight and struggle to first get it on the system and get it at the right price. So basically, there are like 4 main barriers to EVs, adoption. One of them is the cost and financing. For that cost element, what happens is, for example, you buy a vehicle of say $10,000, right? Then you ship it for, let's say, 2005 to bring it in. That's already 12,500, right? By the time it gets here, the cost of clearing alone is probably about 35% of the cost of the vehicle. That's like 3,500. So add that to your cost, that's already a 16K. then by the time you add other things, automatically it's double the cost of what you're buying, of what you bought it with. So that, and EVs are a little bit more, just a little more expensive than their counterparts vehicles. So it now makes it much more expensive. So how do you address this? So one of the things we did was we actually brought the Comptroller General of Customs to our place. We dragged him down and said, "Oh, guy, you need to come and see the impact of what you're doing." Yeah. And we had conversations with them to say, look, let's look at excise duties, exemptions for electric vehicles of all sorts and electric components. So that conversation is actually being had on how you can remove those duties. I know the previous head for NADDC, that's a Nigerian Automotive Design and Development Agency, had said there was going to be a 10 years tax break for electric vehicle components and all. It hasn't been injected yet, but these are conversations that we are already having. So it's good that we have people that are able to add their voice to it, lend their hand to it, because it's a two-way thing. There needs to be demand for the executive to effect it, unless you have someone that has executive will. But even when you have executive will and there's no demand from the masses or the markets that say we need this, it's like you're fighting a lost cause. Yeah. So people like you should actually raise their voices also to this. I mean, we'll get to talk after this event,
Yes.
but be sure that we are taking steps to address this with customs, with the Ministry of Finance, where the exemptions come from and all. Yeah.
Yes, afterwards is just still space also for mingling and then the continuing bilateral talks. So we have hopefully further questions. The gentleman to the right now. Yeah. Is it already gone? Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alamin Ibrahim Alamin. I'm the Chief Admin Officer of Phoenix Renewable Energy. My question also goes to risking the investment in the EV sector and also incentivizing the investment. Because we are combating, currently we are combating for a cycle. We are not part of Nigeria, and we were reported the partnership with Sterling Bank price cycle to complete, which we are going to roll out next year, January. But part of the medium-term and long-term plan of our mission is to see how we can combat the available cycles that are in circulation. What we found out was the kits to combat those cycles, are very expensive as well. So my question also goes back to my sister, this question of custom duty and stuff like that, because we knew what we encountered when we imported those even though we are using some tax system from NADDC, just like what my brother said. So what the presidential committee on the this thing doing, to help in trying to align the policy, you understand, to give us the kind of incentives and also to raise the investment in the EV sector. Thank you very much.
Okay, this question goes to the report of the event, right? As we forward it later then to Michael, as he has left the conversation right now, and we are now having no other representatives of the government. But I think the topic as such is understood. And even in our program, we have a component who are also closely in touch with agencies, government ministries, to discuss easing the process of import regulation. So maybe then yes, this gentleman, please. Okay.
Hi, my name is Brian Southall, energy computer analyst. So my question is also for converted vehicles. So with the sudden demand for gas into converted cars in net adequate, and are there policies in place to ensure continued affordability and also prevent capacity, in the long term?
Okay, so well, I'm not the government, but at least I'm a little bit privy to some of the plans that are in place for to address this. Like Michael had said, Nigeria has the largest gas deposit in Africa. Yeah, one of the largest in the world. the government is looking at key investments in making this gas available for energy supply. Okay. So there are a lot of things that are in place, a lot of things that are happening that we may not see the results right now, but in the next couple of months, within the next 6 months, we'll start seeing these things. Remember when I started, I said we're living in exciting times, right? I believe everyone in this room, you're involved in the energy sector in one space or the other, or you have interest in it. Trust me, there are a lot of opportunities that are going to be popping up. There are a lot of opportunities that you can key into, you can even create from the things that are happening around. A whole lot of opportunities. Yeah.
Yes. The lady here to the right.
My name is
Closer?
Barrister
Yes.
Esther Omenka, the Executive Director, Status Women in Africa Foundation. My question is about the EV initiative, and I'm asking this question because we all know that equity is not in favor of the women. What is the intentional efforts that is going to be put in to ensure that women are empowered through this EV initiative? Intentional.
Maybe we group some more questions. Yes, the gentleman here also to the right was also earlier. Closer.
My name is Shamsuddin Bello. I run a mobile company here. And my question, let's say a hybrid recommendation and a question, what are we doing in terms of legislation? In terms of laws, we're coming from the private sector and we know demand drives most of our businesses. So, and our major spend at the government. So, for instance, we just have a supplementary budget where you have a budget of about maybe almost 10 billion for vehicles. Is there any legislation or any requirement under the DPP law or an amendment that says, okay, you need to utilize like 50% of the budget towards saving the climate, towards patronizing electric vehicles? Is there something like
Okay, understood, yes.
so it creates a sort of a market demand already for private sector entrance. If you have 50% of an annual budget going to EV by legislation, just like what you have in the NEDDC law that says you need to a percentage needs to go to local assembly plants. If you have something like that for EVs, I think it would go a long way to encourage new entrants.
So understood. We take one more. Yes.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Martin Bradisa. This is PS manager there.
Closer.
I've been working on a project now and doing some research around EV, and I realized that one of the ways we can actually stimulate the use of EVs for everyone to be convinced that at every spot they get to, they can easily charge their vehicles, either 3-wheelers, 4-wheelers, or whatever. During my research, I realized that most of these chargers, most of these vehicles, they don't have their charger doesn't conform. Maybe if some of them, the battery doesn't align. So you have to be boxed in a place. And that's actually one of the challenges I experienced that is actually putting people down. Like you can get to any filling station and get your car refueled, but for the EV chargers, I think there's this constraint, and I don't know what is being done around this so that anyone can get to any point and get charged.
Yeah, Uchenna Hakum, that was quite broad. Also again, the appeal, what can the government do to impact the market in a positive way so that, you know, the number of purchase of particular technology goes up. Then we have the general question again, what can be done about females, women engagement in the sector, and if there is any gender component in maybe the incentives, what is outlined in the government. And then thirdly was about the infrastructure, right? Again, what kind of a local solution might come up, especially also with regards to the power supply as it is right now. Maybe that you start first.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought Uchenna would start with the gender.
Yes.
It
Okay.
will take me a while.
Yes. Okay. Uchenna, you are still there, I hope. Uchenna? Because I see that they might have. Can you hear us? Maybe you're muted.
Okay.
I think then we take.
All right, let me take it first. I'll start with the intentional inclusion of women in EVs. Yeah. We recently have like a partnership agreement with one of the development agencies, I think the UNDP, to train talents, technical talents in EVs. Yeah. And we specifically asked that we want 50% of this to be women, you know. So it's, yeah, trust me, there's an intentional effort and drive in that. Yeah, so I don't think you need to be worried about that, because one of the key challenges of adoption of electric vehicles and alternate fuel vehicles is technical skills, technical talent. So you buy a car, you can't take it to your regular mechanic, because with your regular mechanic, you already have a problem. You go with 10 screws. The guy removes 10 screws, he puts 8 back, and he's telling you the remaining 2, or guy, no, is not needed. Now imagine with your electric vehicle, there's going to be a problem. So you need people that have technical skills to address such vehicles. Yeah. So one of the things that we're doing is local content development. Very important. We're working with different partners, both governments, both international development organizations, on how do we train Nigerians to assemble, to repair, to build these things ourselves. So that would, of course, address the local content things. It would also address the cost, because when you assemble locally, it's way, way more cheaper than importation. So your cost of importation, the duties, the shipping, everything is reduced significantly. The same thing goes for chargers, for EV chargers and all. We're looking at assembling locally also, not just importing everything, because we need to get to the place where we start thinking for ourselves and thinking as an export hub, not just import hub, because we already said it, we are the largest vehicle hub in the region. We might as well produce not just for ourselves, but also for the whole region. So you're looking at creating empowerment, you're looking at developing local skills, you're looking at exports, creating, exports and foreign exchange for the country. So this whole thing is a whole ecosystem. It's a new industry. It's a whole ecosystem. It's like your mobile phones. I keep using that reference because that's one industry that boomed a lot and made a lot of money for people. You have people, you now have these vast value-added services that came on board that started doing ringtones and all those things, and they were making money off these things, right? You had other services that were built upon that industry. The same thing with the electric vehicle industry. I'll give you an example. So people say, oh, charging infrastructure, that's one of the challenges. There are no chargers, there are no this, that you don't have power, no lights. But I can bet you everyone here can mention a place or a location that has at least 18 hours of lighted every day. You have your hotels, you have your shopping malls, you have all your filling stations, because even your filling stations cannot sell well without lights. You get, so if the lights they're using to power their pumps, they might as well use it to disperse electricity. Do you get? And as individuals, how can you key into it? That's one of the things that we're looking at, is how do we democratize this industry? Make it open to the private sector, make it open to individuals. So imagine you own a store in a busy mall. You might as well say, okay, you want to install a charging station at the car park of the mall. you put your charging station there, and people can come and charge, and you bill them. That's extra revenue for you. You know, so those are some of the things that we're looking at.
Regarding this question, concrete, let's say, regulation
Yes.
to favor from government procurement or
So,
whatever.
in terms of VAT, yeah, you have this LTLED, long-term low emissions development strategy that the government had signed in 28 and 26 under the last administration, where they said that by 2060, Nigeria will be a zero emissions. It's long term, that's why it's long. But remember that the last administration passed a law, you know, for emissions to be in the budgets. So there's something already been done about that. There's some provisions that is being made from the government to finance projects on low emissions and emissions reductions. You have a lot of things, like you have your Nigerian electrification project, combination between the World Bank and Africa Development Bank. I think it's about $550 million to support electric developments in the country. Because right now in Nigeria, we have the highest energy access deficit in the world. 92 million people do not have access to grid energy. Trust me, the city is not Nigeria. Abuja, Lagos, Port Harcourt, that's not Nigeria. The bulk of Nigeria is rural areas.
Yeah.
If you go to your village, for example, that's if your village is not Abuja or a city, you know. If you go to your village, then you will understand the limitations there. You know, so those are some of the things that we're looking at. That's why I mentioned earlier, we're looking at two-wheelers, three-wheelers, assembling this. And of course, we understand that cost is a barrier. So how do you address this cost issue? By one, if you're assembling locally, you're knocking down a lot of cost. If you're partnering with financial institutions, there was a gentleman that said he was partnering with the banks, yeah, to do something. Of course, some of the cost is already off because the bank is funding, right? It makes entry a little bit easier. The question for you would now be, how do we charge these vehicles or have sufficient infrastructure? You know, so those are some of the key questions that we need to ask and find opportunities by providing that and seeing how, as an individual, you can make money from it. Trust me,
But I think part of the truth concerning this question, especially, is it's a step by step. Now you cannot radically change all the legislation from today to tomorrow. That is not working. Right?
There's still a lot of work that needs to be done. So someone talked about, the gentleman over there in white talked about the charger regularization. Trust me, it's something that we're facing also. For some large vehicles or the vehicles that come in, you have your DC, you have your AC. So you can use either your DC or AC chargers, because there are different charging types. It's just like your sockets. In this part of the world, we use 220 volts. In some other part of the world, they use 110 volts. So I think part of the regulation that needs to be passed is standardizing, harmonizing standards for electric vehicle charging and other things, so that we know that once anything is coming to this region, this is the specification for that.
And that the actors have equal, competition environments. And with this equality, I would call now Uchenna. She's back on the screen.
Oh, okay.
We have reached already the time limit. Uchenna, I would invite you now for the closing remark from your side. So to wrap it up and give us a good, let's say, feeling out of the internet and from where you are speaking now, so that we can continue here in live the mingling event. Please, Uchenna.
Okay, so can you hear me well now?
Yes, you're audible.
I think one of the major things we should think about, even after this meeting today, is that where and how did we start talking about e-mobility in Nigeria? There's always been demand, but at the time when government is meant to come in, it's coming in as palliative. And that's why there's a lot of misconception, early rebuffs and all that. So it's coming in big time as palliative. if it's coming in as palliative, so it has its own pros and cons for business, for markets. Now it's coming in as palliative. The key major thing going forward that I think we should think about, it's about the discussion already in the House about interagency collaboration. Because already some agencies have a dossier of work done and people that should be reached. Already, if this presidential CNG initiative, it's not networking or working with the other agencies, it will come and it will go like every other initiative. Yeah, but if it works, if it sits down on the table, especially if it's palliative, especially the social sectors, providing the solution, the transport solution that the removal of fuel subsidy have cost, that major issue that they come to solve. Because very soon it might veer off into looking for profit and all that. The major deal will be concentrating with these agencies, sit down with these agencies, Ministry of Women Affairs, Education, Health, and look at the solution. As a government, you're spending this taxpayers' money, and it's going to be to bring solutions and not to look for profits. Now, when the private sector is coming in, theirs is to support them to drive the market at that level of profitability. So I'm thinking both sides of the coin, both public and private, have different drives. They have different aims for e-mobility and energy, this energy discourse in Nigeria. Some of our neighboring countries like Ghana, it's about transition, energy transition. It's from their Ministry of Energy, it's driving it. It's not about palliative. So my advice or my closing remark will be, let them drive this in such a way from the government that it brings solutions and not compounding problems. They should know that it's going to bring solutions. Let's look at e-mobility from the angle of, with solving transport problem, livelihood problem, issues of disability, and all that. For the private sector, my advice will be just exactly what my brother in the room is already doing. Do more of it. Look for collaboration around training and retraining, and also creating markets. If we bring an e-mobility product that will help, like what you call rehabilitative medicine, that will aid rehabilitative medicine, that will help issues around.
I think, Ojana, sorry to interrupt. Message is clear. We have, as I understood, one question, particular for her, remaining. Okay, good. Yeah, Ojana, thank you so much for your closing remarks, inspiring and definitely also motivating. And we have one final question now.
Good evening, everybody.
Yes.
My question is to Mr. Adekunwa. So, the Tesla Cybertruck is going to be released on November 30th. And maybe I'm considering giving out some as Christmas present to my friends. But I would like to ask, in terms of capacity building and infrastructure, the EVs and the e-mobility technologies that are coming in are not going to be like the Cybertruck, etc. is going to be releasing. Are we already planning like a futuristic mechanical engineering technology or training for this technology? Or we are going to do a bit by bit, okay, let's start with the, for example, e-tricycles, so to say, or the regular EVs. So the infrastructure we are going to put in place, are they going to be futuristic, or we are just dealing with now problems? And how long is it going to take to develop this infrastructure? How long is it going to take to maintain this facilities as well? Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. So this is the information age, right? We leapfrog. Yeah, you look at the top technology in the world and how you improve on that. Other countries have done it. I don't know if for the older people in the room, they'll tell you back then in the 80s, when you hear anything Japanese, it was considered a knockoff or fake. But into the 90s, when you hear Japanese cement quality, right? what did they do? They looked at products from other parts of the world, studied it, and developed on it from where they were improved on it. Now we are an EV assembling and manufacturing company, right? But we are not starting with just that. What we did was we brought in the best EVs in the world. We brought in the Teslas. The highest range of Tesla right now, Model X, not just Model X, Model X Plaid, the super fast edition, faster than a Bugatti. We brought it in. Reason for doing that, or the Mercedes EQE, we have it in. Why did we do that? It's not just to showcase. No, it's so that we can see the best electric vehicles in the world, understand it, see the technology behind it, and then replicate it. That's what we're planning to do. So when our technical students come and they want to see EVs, they are not just saying EVs from India, EVs from China, although we have those ones also. They are saying what the world considers top of the range, so that anything that we are producing in Nigeria will be at the same par with that, or even surpass what the world calls the best. So I hope that answers the first part of your question. For the second part of your question, which is how long is it going to take? It only takes us as long as the effort we put in. That's it. It's the effort, the amount of effort you put in. There are hurdles. Yeah. You need to jump those hurdles. You need to, there are a lot of, you'll meet a lot of resistance along the way. It's natural. You just need to know that, look, this is the goal we want to achieve, and you keep going. And the truth is, once you set your mind like that, then you just that the universe actually starts aligning for you. When we started, there was no presidential CNG initiative. It was not there. They had not removed the subsidy from fuel. But we looked and said, this thing is going to come. It's going to hit us. Let us position and start. And by the time we started, there was a lot of investment that went into it, a lot of risk that, because if this thing fails, it's game over. But starting that, taking that step, it's like the country now caught up to us. And people come, we've had a number of governors come to our sites and all, and they're like, wow, you guys are doing amazing things and all. And we're like, we've never started. This is not even the plan, you know? So the same way I tell people, I said, there are opportunities. I don't know, I just keep hammering this thing. I know I've said it over and over. If you look at the industry, there are opportunities, there are places you can key in, even as an individual.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is a good closing remark from your side. We want to keep some time for the gathering so that the visitors still have also the space to approach people bilaterally. We touched many things, and I think it came out properly again, as it is for most of the economies and countries worldwide. The energy transition, climate change, just transition, whatever you frame it as a heading, is a marathon. There is not one easy solution. Uchenna was saying solution, but it's not the one easy solution, and also not one size fits it all. I think that was also clearly coming out of the discussion. And as a, let's say, German citizen and European, believe me, even there, we are struggling with the crucial question of how much money shall be given by certain incentives, so that the market is, you know, orientating itself into a certain direction. It is very much controversial, and you always have also to accept, like entrepreneurs and also the public sector, you have other targets, and they are sometimes also contradicting, or at least there is a target, you know, conflict, what governance has at the end to resolve, and that is not an easy one. We were talking definitely also a lot about the question rural areas and urban areas. So I think that is a very strong message out of this evening's event, that the policymakers and the politicians in charge on state and federal government level have to cater for balanced solutions. We were, of course, also tackling the question of female entrepreneurship and the inclusiveness for the new sector, what can lead also to job creation and other value chains for Nigerian economy, leaving, let's say, the import approach, coming to a more local production approach, right? Apart from this, a lot was also said about acceptance, overcoming cliches, and really teaching, training, sensitizing. We had here also some students around, institutes, universities. They all have also to play their role in this process of leaving the conventional, let's say, transport solution. And then, of course, the most pressuring question in the room was based on market developments, the prices in the market, inflation issues. So households have to make ends meet. And right now is also high time to calculate the solution for entrepreneurs, but also for private people, what to apply. And of course, in the agricultural sector, we have spoken about it. It's a transport very decisive for the final pricing of food in the market. And the more we need really also to put our efforts together and realize synergies so that the economy quickly benefits from the best technology solution in order to achieve cheaper transport calculations overall in the economy. With these few wrap-up comments, I very much thank you now, Bekpa and Unshuni. I hope she can still hear us. We thank you for your time joining this discussion. I hope you also enjoyed it and you could take some insights with you. I invite you all now to mingle a bit and to exchange the takeaways of this session. Many thanks, of course, also to the organizer to this event, and congratulations to the Electricity Hub that this format was well attended at this late time almost, and wishing you for the next session, of course, already all the best and good luck, that always the topic hits the market demand, as we also talked about market demand. Thank you so much. I appreciate being here with you. Yes.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Oluwabusayomi Omofe, and I work with the Electricity Hub. I want to say a very big thank you to everybody for joining us today at this time of the evening. I hope you learned a lot. I hope your questions were answered. The panelists are here. If you still want to ask them further questions, please go ahead and ask them further questions. And our panelists, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you spending this time with us. And we hope for further collaboration, not just with the Electricity Hub, but like with every other person that is interested in working with you. We bid you a good farewell back home, safe journey back home. Please be conscious, be security conscious, and there are refreshments at the back while you want to network, and just have fun this evening. Thank you so much for coming.